Next up, let's hear about some social media and health. We have been engaged in social media all day, and today this kind of brings it full circle. Please welcome Michelle Antoinette Nelson from Brown and Healthy and Paul Rabil from the Rabil Companies.
Check, check. Hey, everybody.
Hey. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Awesome.
Well.
So, my name is Michelle Antoinette Nelson. I am the founder and chief visionary officer of Brown and Healthy. Brown and Healthy is a global health and wellness initiative for people of color. Our tagline, our mission statement is change the narrative, change the world. And there are 3 ways that we're working on doing that right now. We've only been a 501c3 since July. We have fiscal sponsorship through Strong City, Baltimore. But what we are working on right now is our food justice initiative, our fitness membership program, and our Brown and Healthy Kids initiative. One of the reasons, the main reason I'm standing before you today. So our food justice, we give away free produce every Tuesday and Friday at Dovecote Cafe on Madison Avenue. We go get it, we bring it back. It's food that is, might be too much for the grocery store, might have one bruise on it, might be a little food vanity or something, and they don't want it. So we bring it back to us, and we feed our community. The second thing that we do, as I said, is our fitness initiative. We actually, I'm telling Paul, because we're actually having a conversation. So the other thing that we do is that we actually have built out a membership where people can get 20 fitness classes a month, 20 plus fitness classes a month, workshops, and with their membership card, they get discounts from local service providers, retailers, and restaurants. A portion of all those proceeds goes to our Brown and Healthy Kids programming.
Wow.
Yeah, and that brings us to Brown and Healthy Kids. KIDS is an acronym, and it's also part of our core values. It is kindness, intelligence, determination, and strength. So what we do there is we take and we teach them meditation, we bring balls, we bring all types of equipment, and we work them out. But we also show them how to use their cell phones and their iPads as a means to take pictures of what they're doing, then teach them how to make memes and kick it out to their social media where they basically live. So instead of taking selfies and bullying all the time, we're affecting the narrative through our kids who are going to take it to where they live on the internet and kick it out into the world. So that's a little bit about Brown and Healthy.
That's a lot.
Is it a lot?
So impressive, isn't it? Let's give her a hand. I know, I was coming up here, I spoke last year and just talked strictly about social media. This year, I was paired up with Michelle and I'm like, I think I should just ask her a bunch of questions because naturally I want to hear more about what she's doing. It's so impressive and so impactful in our community. So I want to get to that quickly.
Yeah.
And then the scope of what we're doing here is to talk about kind of modern media leveraging that and how to take your social cause and basically squeeze as much out of it such that you can have a really strong and meaningful impact on our youth in your specific community, or if your trajectory is nationwide or global. For me, my name is Paul Rabil. I'm a professional lacrosse player. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., and I went to Johns Hopkins for undergrad. Very little wages in professional lacrosse. Many of you probably don't know there's actually a professional lacrosse league, which is okay, right? Even though we're in one of the natural hubs.
I knew.
Appreciate that. So the reality is probably several dozen years ago, the same was for professional football, basketball, and baseball. Not necessarily the awareness, but the wage pool. So what we do as professionals is we parse out having a career on field to having to have one off the field so we can supplement our wages to support our lifestyle. So what I've done in an influencer position with my sport specifically is launched a career in business. So I operate a couple of companies, one being a video content platform and another being an event business. I also started a foundation in 2010 called the Paul Rabil Foundation. And what we do is we help children in Maryland, the greater Maryland, DMV region, into Baltimore, now in New York where my professional lacrosse team is. And we focus on partnering with schools that specialize in educating children with learning differences. And we have a scholarship fund And we also donate lacrosse equipment to those schools, because what helped me growing up with learning differences as well is having access to boost my confidence, my network of friends on the athletic field where I struggled in the classroom. So we feel like providing both of those is really helpful to our youth as they grow up and are more well-balanced. So that's a little bit about me, and I want to shift back over to you, because I think the first thing we want to uncover, and if there are many of you, if there are some of you out there at least that are interested in furthering developing your specific cause to have a measurable impact, I know the challenge that I've had, I'm wondering if it's you as well, is that when you have so many things going on, how do you focus on driving as much quality out of each endeavor without being spread too thin? So your cause specifically here that's really meaningful and impactful has been Brown and Healthy.
Yes.
So can you talk about, basically your day-to-day, your calendar, like how are you getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to drive value and take us a step further?
Awesome question. So I am also a performance artist. I go by the name of Love the Poet, and I've been doing that for over a decade. I run the longest running monthly open mic in the city called Be Free Fridays. It's 11 years old. And I say that to say that I utilize the time that I've learned over the years on how to work and how to be an artist and how to travel and how to navigate venues and how to figure out when you're on tour, how to get things done. I just funneled that into how we manage Brown and Healthy. One thing that's super important is having a home base. So you never really have to code switch. You don't have to do anything really differently. One of the things we decided to do to build out our programming so you can find it all in one central location beyond our website is our app. So we have a Brown and Healthy app. So even as you said, walking through a day, if you go into the app, you can kind of see what my day looks like, because on Tuesdays in the morning, you can volunteer to go with us to get food. In the afternoon, you can volunteer to meet us where we are to get food just by clicking a button. And then in the evening, you can click the fitness class button and go and join us at meditation and kickboxing. Then on Wednesday, there's a bit of a break for that. And then Thursday, we get to it again with more fitness.
That's
and
amazing.
Then on Friday, we have the volunteering. And then Saturday, we have our fitness. And then Sunday, we're going to have some more fitness. And so it's a day in the life of me and my partner, Lynette Caban, who is right here, is also my fiance. You can clap for her, please.
Hey.
She's the director of wellness programming, and we do this hand in hand every week, every day, like clockwork. But you can join us just by downloading the app and clicking if you want to get into it with us. So I think the way we manage it, and for me, it's always about being who I am wherever I am.
Yep.
So this is how I show up, to almost anything if it's not changing in the fitness gear. But I want everyone to be able to do that in the company, in the organization, and throughout their whole life. So you just know you can just go here and find a central location. When
you guys started Brown and Healthy, did you start with a website first? I imagine the app came after there was momentum.
Yes.
Or was it social media first, or was it getting out in grassroots?
It was very much, I feel like in 2017, 2016, grassroots lives in social media as well. So yeah, we go out and we do the hand-to-hand combat, handing people flyers, and we beat our feet and we go and we go and we meet people where they are. But you almost can't even do that without building your web presence first, because people want to know where they are. You on Instagram? Are you you know what I mean? Are you on Twitter?
Yep.
Are you on Facebook? Is a big thing for our age demographic, Facebook. And then it's like, okay, those are good like third-party sources, but you have to have a home base in the digital world, and that's your website as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's critical. I think having that digital presence, being web-based, a lot of us think it's antiquated to an extent, but that is your hub for any type of transaction for your e-commerce. So you have to have that set up. If you have a nonprofit, if you have a for-profit business, you have to have a channel that most people are using now. The industry has been fully disrupted, whether it's in sports, whether it's in banking, you name the industry, where the trust has now evolved past the early adopters and people are willing to make a purchase. through your website online or through their mobile device. So you have to have that infrastructure set up. And then figuring out, like you said, your demographic, which social platforms do I want to be on? Because those are the modern form of communication. We were just talking backstage, and close to the same age.
Yeah.
We talked about how Facebook was kind of first in, and that was a friend-to-friend, a peer-to-peer platform only back in 2004 to 2008. And then in 2008, they created their first fan page capability and company capability, and then you were able to attract more users than the maximum, which was 5,000 friends.
Right.
So then kind of open this opportunity to communicate more broadly and build a broader business, because Facebook now has close to, depending on how the stats fluctuate, 1.5 billion daily actives. So daily active, people that are on the platform every day. That's an insane number, right? We talked about in sports about 3 years ago, and it's grown this quickly, but the second-hand experience, the second screen experience is what many sports executives call it. Is that traditionally we're watching the television, and then occasionally we'll hop on our phone and try to communicate with our friends about what's going on. Now the second screen is television.
Yeah.
If that. People may not even have televisions. They push through their Chromecast from their mobile device.
Right.
You find a lot of your supporters or a lot of your fans or the audience is just on mobile. You mentioned the app.
Yeah, I find that these little things here that we wonder why we pay so much money for are no longer just phones. We're paying for small computers in our pockets. And I think that most people are okay with spending the amount of money they're spending on these devices because they know they can download apps and use them and get to know what's going on through the world through these devices, because it's hard to make a phone call on this thing. I don't know if anybody else has realized how hard it is to get to your dial pad, but it definitely is. So you want to use it for multiple things. But if I may backtrack a little bit about community and narrative.
Yes.
I came here in 1999. I was 18, and I went to Coppin State, then college, now university, on North Avenue. And I am a Baltimore transplant. I grew up in Columbia, Maryland, middle class, black girl in Columbia, Maryland, born there. And I came here, and I recognized very quickly that in Baltimore, there is this very deep sense of community. And it might just be on the west side. I'm from the west side, and that's where I'm staying. Or I'm from east side. I'm from over east. You know, I'm from over west. And there's no real connection. And so I recognize that there's like these very deep silos. And Changa Bell was talking about the idea of silo from a more positive, more uplifting perspective. But there are these deep silos in our community. And having traveled the corridor of North Avenue, now I am the events and operations manager at Impact Hub Baltimore. So I've gone from over west to slightly east, you know, and seeing it change over the course of 18 years and understanding that social media, and maybe this brings it all together for you guys while we're standing here, but these things, sometimes people don't even in this city want to go from one side of town to the other. So if you're able to reach them through a social media post, if you're able to grab them out of their seat because they're just seeing so many awesome pictures on your Instagram, then that is actually doing something to get people to step further out of their silos, because interestingly enough, there are so many people doing the same things across this city. There's so many people working with the youth, activating young people, and everybody's doing the same thing. So why are we recreating the wheel? Why don't we talk and partner? And that's one of the major initiatives of Brown and Healthy and Brown and Healthy Kids is to partner. We're working with the Baltimore City Health Department now with the Youth 2.0. And we're making teenagers nutrition specialists, and we're taking them to Park Heights. And they're going to be talking in front of corner stores. And guess what they're also going to be doing? They're going to be taking pictures, because I'm going to make sure they do. And they're going to be posting about what they're doing.
That's great.
You know, and so I think that that's a really important thing when we talk about like how to affect the narrative from every angle. It's like recognizing why you have to do it in the first place.
It's critical.
Yeah.
We're going to take some questions in a little bit, and I imagine that a lot of them are going to be social media based or communication based. But I want to harp on something that Michelle and her organization does really well that I think is super critical right now we talk about social media, we talk about digital, and then the next words are scale and data. And I actually don't believe they should be. All right, a lot of the brand managers that I work with, some blue chip, some boutique shops, they want to know your followers, right? And that's one of the more vulnerable things when you're starting a program or a business or a charity, is like, how do I get my followers up, right? And the more important thing is that you should be having meaningful communication, meaningful messaging. You should have a call to action in the community, actually doing stuff that benefits the community at the grassroots level. And you should just be focused on building trust between you and your followers, whether it's 1, whether it's 10, whether it's 1,000, whether it's 100,000. All right, but don't worry about scale. Don't worry about data. What you should focus on is your messaging and then that connection. So when you talk to your consumer, no matter what platform it's on, make sure you listen back. All right, that's something that I try and do more regularly, but don't just post and step away. Right, that's not authentic, and that's not going to build the community that you're referencing. Right, so when you're talking about brown and healthy messaging, what do you guys focus on regularly? And then if you are hosting an event, are you shifting your strategy for that week, 2 weeks up to that? How are you pushing people over to see what you're doing in the community from an activation standpoint?
I think, if I understand your question correctly, so the messaging that we really focus on is uplift, and I think a lot of what we've been capturing is action and what we're actually doing when we're actually doing it, i.e. the produce pop-up stand. So we're capturing people who are looking at a jackfruit for the first time ever, and then kind of caption this, or writing, hey, this jackfruit look amazing, this is fruit you might have never tasted. You know, and just kind of from an education standpoint, capturing everything that we're doing and trying to educate in our 140 characters, or however we want to, get that out there. We also have we try to generate our own authentic news, as opposed to, we share what other people are saying, but we try to have our own original content. So we have a segment that we do on our website called The Power of the Process, where I actually kind of curate a conversation. I ask somebody who's doing phenomenal things in the community maybe 4 questions, and I have them write their article. I have them talk about themselves, and the tagline under The Power of the Process is, your story is news. And getting people activated and understanding that this isn't just us trying to say we're jamming into the fitness world, because that is a tool. We're innovating for social justice. So if Brown and Healthy is a tagline, is a declarative statement. So in Baltimore, either in certain publications, you open them and you never see Black people featured. You only see them maybe in the ads. I won't name the publication that I'm thinking about, but there is one specific one that gets under my skin. And then it's either we're non-existent in a city that's 62% Black, or we are The Wire. And I'll take it a step back. We're The Corner. I was at college when they were filming that in West Baltimore. And so there's a gap in this narrative around a thriving city where it's majority Black, and cities only thrive because of the people in it. So why is that a thing? So we try to bring a narrative. If you look at Instagram right now and #health, look up #health. Look what you see. You don't see people who look like me. So Brown and Healthy is, it's cool. We don't have to, we can matter to everybody and everything. But I was taught in middle school that I didn't have to care if I mattered to people, but I have a responsibility to matter to me. So when we post and when we talk about the things that are going on, and we have our people telling our story, we're saying something very clear, like, we're here, we exist, we don't just matter, we exist, and we're going to stay here. So I think that is the biggest push and the biggest drive we have when we are posting about the things that we're doing.
That's really amazing. I'll give you guys a quick story about me and playing lacrosse, which has its own stereotype. Right? It's It's a white collar sport traditionally. You know, you look at the marketplaces northeast that traditionally are areas where kids are playing. You look at the private schools that are playing lacrosse, and you look at the negative news associated with it from time to time. And that's something that's a part of my career. I've been playing professionally now. I'm heading into my 10th season.
Wow.
And it's taken me a number of years of growing through it to actually step outside and say, wow, this is something that I feel like in the position I am, I can positively influence in a way that is kind of course correcting a lot of the negativity, but also educating the kids that are growing up in it along the way. I look at sports in general now, so that's lacrosse. I look at sports in general, particularly on the male side. I'll give you guys a quick project to check out on your own if you have notes here. It's called the Representation Project. There are 2 films that are incredible. One is The Mask You Live In. It talks about the overstimulation of masculinity in male sports at a young age and how that's negatively affected us in a way that, like, we have to be bigger, better, tougher, never back down from a fight, criticize others when we're insecure, that mentality. And then misrepresentation is on the female side. It talks about gender disparity. And it talks about a number of different ways that females are brought up in a society that previously were told, like, hey, you're going to find your mate and you are going to give birth and raise kids in the household. And now, you know, that's not the course that you have to be on, right? And so these are really interesting. So I'll go back to my point, which is around sports and my cause. And one of the biggest myths in sports today, maybe even the greatest myths in our world that we live in, is that sports build character. They don't. Intention builds character. And a lot of the intention rests with the coach. Sports can teach you how to work hard. And sometimes you can glean from just the environment that you're in how to be a good teammate, but again, that's usually intention-based. So when you have an opportunity, whether it's in a sports or a team environment or in the classroom, think about the message or the power that you have, whether it's social or whether it's in person. And that character building is only coming through intention of the person who's leading and who's teaching. And you're far more powerful than you think. So part of my message now is when I coach or when I influence is to coach young men and women in our sport to be men and women of empathy and integrity and have responsibility to themselves and their community to grow in the right way. Right? And I think that's very different than what you see in sports, but it's really important. And I think myself and some of my other peers across other athletes are trying to push that. Yeah. So I think it's through that mindset of caring, right, as you mentioned.
Right. Yeah, I too was an athlete. I ran varsity track.
Faster than me.
Yeah, I ran varsity track. You said what?
You're probably faster than me.
You know, I hope not. At this point, I am 36.
Listen.
If I'm fast.
The track. I would love to have ran track. You know?
I did. I ran track. I ran varsity track as a freshman. They saw me run. They picked me up and was like, you should, run varsity forever. And I did. And then I got picked up and ran Division I track and field at Coppin. So what you're saying is an interesting spin about the intention.
Yeah.
Because they cram that down your throat. Sports builds character, and that kind of goes with the idea, and I see some young people in the audience about being a scholar athlete. Like, you have to set an intention to be a scholar athlete. You have to be focused. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times you actually got a chance to go out and be social in high school, but I didn't get much. Yeah. It was practice, homework, sleep, school, practice. That was my thing. And then in college, when there was 2-a-days, it was wake up, practice, go to school all day, practice, and I didn't necessarily have the fortitude to go pro, because pro for track is like Olympics. But I was, that was my existence as well.
My gut tells me you probably would have been an Olympic sprinter because of your work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. 100, 200. Yeah.
So let me say one more
Got me
thing, too.
reminiscing, Paul. Got me
Yeah,
reminiscing.
that's right. So foundation, validation around what we do is really important. So Michelle also majored in criminal justice. Which
Yeah,
I
he
think
investigated my life.
I did a little research. But what I think is so awesome about that is that she can influence with perspective. She's on both sides, and she's quoted by saying, listen, cops aren't the bad guys or the bad girls, right? They're trying to bring justice to our space. But at the same time, because of that validation and majoring in that space and having said that you would have probably been in criminal justice had you not found your purpose in what you do now, I think it's important to think about that as we grow into whatever industry and profession we are, right? Is that to step back and have true empathy and to say, hey, objectively, what's each side, what do they stand for and why do they see it that way? Try to seek to understand versus seek to be understood.
Right.
Barring one or two candidates here and there.
Right.
It's just sometimes you're just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, and I was touched earlier by and I spoke about this a little earlier, by the idea that our police commissioner is talking about being rehabilitative as opposed to zero tolerance. And I think that's super important, and it's super important in community and the understanding of community policing. I think that we have very little time left, but I just want people to understand that things like the uprising could have been avoided if a couple of those police officers could have called those children by their names. Okay, that's community policing. That's walking the beat. That's getting to know people. That's moving toward rehabilitation away from zero tolerance that's here. And we need to get there because that is a very archaic thing at this point. The 90s was a million years ago. So we got to move past that. And what you're saying is like, I got the opportunity to work with at-risk youth and special needs kids for 8 years. I'm a trained behavioral specialist and a resource counselor. And that's one of the reasons why Brown and Healthy Kids exists. And that's why we know how to attack the narrative with them. And I see Jamie, so I think it's time for us to wrap up.
It's time.
My mic is on here, but are you guys going to stay around for a couple minutes?
Stick around.
Yes.
So, look, there's so much you said that I'm sure people have questions about and want to talk to you about, but I'm also really sensitive to everybody who these are the diehards here in the audience. There's the hard workers that you're talking about. And so I want to make sure that we have a chance to get our last speaker up here.
Okay.
These guys are going to stick around. There's a lot of great stuff to talk to them about. We'll have a chance over cocktails.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
want to thank Michelle and Paul for giving us their incredible insight and great conversation. Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.